All right, we have quorum, so if we're ready, can call this meeting to order. Are we waiting on anyone yet from staff?
Kelly is unable to join us for this meeting. She's attending landmarks, but John should be joining in a few minutes here. John's ready from inspections.
Okay. I think we can probably have roll call, or I'll call this meeting to order. Can we have a roll call, please?
Christensen? Erickson?
Here.
Ernst? Ernst?
I'm here.
Garrett? Gulan?
Here.
Hobbs?
Hobbs is here.
Hutchison? Hutchison?
Here.
Javaltis?
Here.
And Lord.
All right. Having had roll call, I would like to welcome our newest member, TJ Hobbs, to the board. TJ, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and what brings you here to this board?
Sure. Forgive me, I heard the first part. A little about, could you repeat the question? I'm sorry, I'm going to turn my speakers up.
Yeah, so could you please just tell us who you are, a little about yourself, and what brings you here to this board?
Thank you so much. So a little about myself. I went to college at UW Oshkosh. I graduated back in 2013, and that was after growing up across the lake in a little town named after a cow that is very small, but has a special spot in my heart. I am now have since April been, I guess, the official founder of the Hope Fridge, that mutual aid project that's been in Oshkosh and Neenah. That was an idea I got from the West Coast, not an original idea by any means, but now that I'm back in town and the pandemic brought me from, I moved from UW Oshkosh to California. I met my husband here, married him out there, came back. We want to set roots here. And part of why I joined this rental advisory board is I feel like I have a very balanced perspective when it comes to looking at all sides of all issues here, as I am a renter currently, but my grandmother owns properties and has been a landlord. And so I have that in my family, and I, have kind of grown up with, pressure to become one / like experience with what it's like to live as one. And I've seen all sorts of things. And I've also been a landlord, or excuse me, a renter that has had great landlords and a renter that has had landlords that could have tried a little harder to care about the people that live there. So I feel like I kind of have a good perspective on all of it, and a passion for, making sure folks have housing and that is affordable and realistic. But also my grandmother uses her, rent as her primary income as she's, advanced in age and unable to work due to that. So I understand how it's important to kind of be balanced on both sides when it comes to renting, and it's a passion of mine that folks have adequate housing. So nice to meet y'all.
Yeah, likewise. We're very happy to have you.
Thank you.
Welcome. Excuse me. All right. With that, we will move on to item 4, citizen statements. Are there any citizens in the chat that wish to participate today? Doesn't really look like it. So we can move on then to item 5 on the agenda, approval of the minutes from the August meeting. Do I have a motion to approve?
I will make motion to approve the August 11th meeting minutes.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, so Todd seconds. Is there any discussion? Seeing none or hearing none, all in favor of approving the August 11th minutes as written, we'll take a roll call vote.
Erickson?
Aye.
Ernst?
I'm abstaining. I wasn't at the meeting.
Gulan?
Aye.
Hobbs,
I feel best to abstain as well, considering this is my first meeting.
Hutchison,
Aye.
and Javaltis.
Aye.
The minutes are so approved. This brings us then to item 6, the AdvoCap rental assistance update. Ms. Shear does not seem to be with us today. Does anyone have any updates they can share with us? Has anyone been tracking AdvoCap stuff?
I was at an apartment association meeting a few weeks ago, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, and she gave an update there. I don't have them in front of me, but at that point in time, she said there was a 3-week wait list before staff could call someone back to work through the application, and there were about 300 people on that wait list. So sounds like they're working through a lot of people who are applying for rent assistance. So that's all I know.
Did they say they're still having staffing troubles, like needing people to process the paperwork and stuff?
Yeah, I think she mentioned they were still hiring staff to do that.
Any discussion on rental assistance? Hopefully, everyone's doing their part to promote that program and offer it as a up to those who would potentially need it. Do we know is Lou Shear going to join us at all today, or?
I confirmed with her earlier this week that she would be attending, so she might just be running late.
Okay, well, we can jump back then when, if and when she arrives. So we will revisit item 6 in the near future. Until then, we'll get on to item 7, rental inspections update. Mr. Zadi.
So I've got that for you. So I talked with Casey, and since the last meeting, we've had 13 inspections. These are all complaint based, of course, because we aren't really doing the program at this time. In those 13 inspections, there was 88 total violations. All kind of what you've heard me say before: smoke and CO, leaking pipes, some bad wiring, loose handrails, windows that don't stay open, screens that aren't there. So just those same general types of items.
Is there any, do we have any idea at all when the mandatory inspections might start up again?
No, we thought we would start it. I guess you weren't in the last meeting, Tim, but the last time we had thought, before this, I don't know if I want to say second round of pandemic came around, we were hoping to start again in fall, but now with the numbers being where they are in the pandemic, I guess we've tabled it again just to see if we can get a little better climate out there and make it safer for people to be around each other is kind of what we're thinking. So I really don't have a time frame on that, unless you can tell me a time frame when you think the pandemic will be slowing down again. That's kind of where we're at with that.
I can give you a time frame. It'll be meaningless, but I'm happy to do that. Hi,
Yeah.
Lou. You're muted. I think we can't hear you, or I can't hear you. Well, Ms. Shear gets her audio.
I'm here.
Um,
I'm here.
oh,
Hey,
Hi.
sorry I'm late. I've had a lot of technical problems today, so.
No problem at all. Lindsay mentioned that she had seen you speak at a recent apartment association meeting and kind of gave us some updates based on that. The 300 applicants and several weeks behind in processing. So if you want to pick up from there, we would love to hear what you have to say. Linda, go ahead.
I want to go back to John when we're done. Okay, is that okay?
Yep, that's fine.
Okay, thanks. Okay.
Yes, it has been some changes since I did the presentation, and I just ran the numbers. The state has closed out their year, so we had to join last year's numbers and this year's numbers to come up with this. But so far, in the 4 counties that we've assisted, there has been $10,812,811 of assistance, of which $6,593,572 have gone to Winnebago County, sticking right at that 60-61% of all the aid has come into Winnebago County. I do not have the information. It's getting harder and harder to extract per city, but historically it's been 60% of the Winnebago County area money has gone into, is helping people who live in Oshkosh. So I can go through the specifics, but it really boils down to is approximately $5 million of rental assistance of that 6 million. That we it's almost 6.5 million is past due rental assistance and current, keeping people current with rental assistance. We have gone and have paid up to 15 months for many people already. It's a growing number. And the other part that we're seeing is now with WERA 2, we are getting, we're moving up to 18 months. For people who have been, who are at that point, because right now that is all we can do, we have set aside the Oshkosh CDBG CV funds, and we'll be assisting with people with those. So that was always kind of the plan, is that we would use this WERA dollars first and then use the CDBG dollars last in order to keep people going. The bigger problem is that we're seeing people who are homeless increase substantially. Across the state of Wisconsin in the past 2 years, it's gone up 400%. We have seen 37% in the 3 counties that we serve. And so we have over 300 people on our wait list for affordable housing units. The new rub, or I keep calling it an unintended consequence of WERA, is that we're finding some landlords that have been working with us with our homeless population are saying, no, thank you. We would rather take somebody who you're going to pay 100% of whatever rent I charge, plus all the utilities above and beyond that through WERA. And we'll take and sign those people into leases before we'll sign your homeless people into leases. That has created some backlash for landlords because people have, they started doing this. They lived the 3 months. They didn't pay any further rent to them, damaged the unit substantially. So now some people are now gun shy of WERA. There's just so much going on with this population of people who need this assistance that it's unprecedented. You know, I think that's what we keep saying, right? We couldn't have predicted this, and yet here we are. So we are right around 5 weeks back and being able to reach out to people. A new flood of people, and we had over 100 calls in 1 week, are from UW Oshkosh students, which came as kind of an unexpected surprise again, because I don't know who started this or how it started, so I don't want to make any assumptions on this. But we had, like I said, 100 in 1 week who are saying, I just rented a 4-bedroom apartment. I don't have any roommates. I have WERA. You're going to pay for my rent now while I go to college, right? And we're not talking non-traditional students. We're talking about 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old students. And and replying back to the state, what I have the right to do and what I will do is ask if they are listed as a dependent on someone else's taxes. And that will then determine whether or not they're independent or not for school reasons and for us. But again, it was never the intended consequence that we would pay housing costs for college students while they're going to school. None of our other programs do that, but here we are. So I'm happy to say we have assisted over 1,500 people, and we know that a high percentage of those people are people who, in fact, were eligible and needed these funds, and we're doing the right thing, and they're being successful in staying in housing. We are now being asked a little bit more about what we would need for staffing to run the program that's going to help homeowners. And we want to do some, it's going to be a little bit more, I think, extensive training in mortgage world so that we can negotiate with banks and help the people understand what modifying a loan may look like, what some of these other things, what these terms are, how to get through that system. Having run a foreclosure prevention program under a different funding for many years, we know the local banks are the easiest ones to work with. And the large banks and the online financial assistance that people have gotten their mortgage through are the hardest. So that money is sitting out there, it's waiting. There's some training and there's some expertise that we're going to look for in the people who are going to be handling that. We're getting a few more requests for water now that we can pay water. But that's one bill people seem to be able to stay on top of or have not caught on or have not heard that we will pay for water. That's the new thing. Lindsay, you probably remember at the landlord meeting, there was one particular landlord that was questioning about that. So I need to get a hold of Don and find out who that was because I'd like to reach out to her and encourage them to apply for that. So I think I'll go back to the fact that I think the Landlord Association and this group has done a wonderful job in letting people know about this program and about the assistance that people are eligible for. And yet we're still working through some of the bugs in regards to, is it appropriate that we're using this money to pay rent for college students? I find it difficult to believe, but it's possible that a college student was renting a 4-bedroom unit and not renting to anyone else, not accusing again without doing a home inspection. But it seems because they cannot find 1 and 2 and 3-bedroom apartments that are affordable, we're finding that people, single people and small families, meaning a mother and a child, are renting units that are larger than they need. And again, there's really no stopgap from anybody doing that with because we will pay 100% of the rent. It doesn't have to be rent reasonable. It doesn't have to be fair market rent. So we're looking for further guidance with that. Because like I said, we understand that there's a shortage of housing. So it's kind of a catch-22. What do we do with people? If they don't rent too large of a unit, then they're going to be without housing at all. Does it make sense to be paying for a 4-bedroom unit if we only utilize 1 or 2 of those bedrooms? Dilemmas we're having. Again, just touching on some of the issues with housing in general, rental housing that we see in the area and a trend that we're seeing. What can I answer for you? I can send this spreadsheet, by the way, and I would be happy to send that to Anna, and it gives you all the breakdowns for all the things that we talked about. But I think the numbers I gave you are probably the ones you're most interested in.
It's Linda. Okay, so I have a question about those students. I thought the funds you have is relative to people that are affected by COVID-19.
Sure.
And so how do students going to college get funding for their residence then?
Well, in the real world, either you pay for it or you take financial aid out. I mean, that's what I did. That's what my children did. That's how it's kind of designed. They're saying they've been affected by COVID because they can't get part-time jobs.
What? Oh, I see. And that's considered legitimate?
Well, it's affected their income.
And so are they referred to the county or anything like that to, like somebody with food share might be referred to the county for finding jobs or something like that?
We always, that's part of our spiel, our stick, to talk about people. Do they have any other needs? Are they connected to resources? Are they interested in case management? We do the PASS program for people who are like really trying to struggle. And I'll go back to the heartbreaking stories, our families who just never thought they'd see themselves in this situation.
Right.
Right. And so we ask, we ask all the questions. All of this is voluntary, so I can't force them. But when they say, no, thank you, just pay my rent, and they're using the logic that everybody's affected by COVID. I can't get a part-time job. you know, it's a self-attestation form, meaning they attest to the fact by their signature that this is true. And I keep telling my staff that I believe that the U.S. Treasury will hire more people when this is all said and done to go after and to make sure that people who say they have zero income, what they filed on their taxes, that I see coming. I really do, because, you know, it's not my job to decide what sins people are going to go to hell for, right? That's just the way I say it. It's a treasury program, and it's a treasury issue. So I absolutely agree. But if Susie Smith says that she's an independent person renting a 4-bedroom apartment as a college student, wants me to pay $1,200 a month rent plus all the utilities, I just need to ask her to prove that she is on her taxes, that she is not listed as a dependent somewhere else. That's all I can do.
Okay, then.
You know, nobody likes doing this. We don't. I mean, but I was able at least to get a measuring tool that I can use to legitimately and consistently with everyone. Show me that you're independent and that you know that you've had income or a part-time job. Yet, here, like I said, here we are. So we're dealing with it, but it's just one of the things that we're running up against.
When does the program end?
2025. Where 2 goes into 2025.
2020. So, but is there unlimited money available till 2025?
Well, we still have WIRA dollars, and the WIRA dollar, WIRA 1 or WIRA original is good to the end of the year. WIRA $2 is good till 2025. Until the funds run out. I have to tell you, I went to my granddaughter's wedding in Nevada. They are not even running this program yet. Arizona is not running this program yet. So there's concern of, will the federal government redesign this and reallocate funds that aren't being used in other states? Who knows? We may get more. I don't know that. That's a prediction that if the states all had these allocations, every state had an allocation to assist people with paying rent. If they did choosing not to use it, I believe they'll have to return it.
So, but obviously we see the signs all over the place where people are, hours have been, restaurants are closing because they can't get employees, and, grocery stores are paying now. I think Woodman's is up to $18 an hour, and then during the week, and $24 on Sundays. There's no, how, I'm just curious how these college students are saying that they can't find a part-time job. Are they saying they can't because they're afraid of catching COVID and they don't want to go work in public? Or are they saying that there aren't any jobs available?
They just say they can't get in. I don't have the legal right to start. It's, there's no case management. It's all self-declaration. And I I have to be honest with you. It is a struggle that I have with my staff, because we go through 4, 5, 6 people that are right on track, exact people, keeping families, in safe and decent housing, doing what we need to do. And then you get somebody who calls you and says, you got to pay my rent. And then you've got a landlord who says, yeah, I'd much rather get WIRA money than deal with homeless people. And, and it's like mind-boggling to me, right? But it is. And hence why I say we are doing our job. We're having them fill out the forms, but it's not on us to police our everything. They're saying this, they're attesting to this. That's part of being an adult. I can't do a bedroom check. I can't say, are you kidding me? Have you been down there? Have you looked at any place? Everybody's looking to hire part-time people. I can't say it. We can encourage. Have they been looking? Is there any need? Do they need any assistance in finding employment? I can ask the questions. That's what I can do. I feel your pain.
had two questions. When you said, I think you said you've assisted over 1,500 people so far. Is that AdvoCap service area or Winnebago County?
That is total people served. Unduplicated people served.
In the AdvoCap
In the 4 counties we're serving, Fond du Lac, Winnebago, Green Lake, and Winnebago counties.
Okay.
You know, we can look at an average cost per household and determine, you know, but again, I'm going to tell you that it's about 60% of the people. I mean, just the numbers have been just along during this entire process have worked out about 60% is going to Winnebago County and approximately 60% of Winnebago County money is going into Oshkosh. But as I said, it's getting harder and harder with all the funding to pull out exactly. And the landlord could be in Oshkosh, but the property could be in Neenah. So it's not an exact science, but it's what we're working with the information we can get. The state is not, nor is the funding source interested in being more helpful with the reports that we're trying to pull, you know.
Sure. Yeah.
Which is unfortunate. I mean, the data is always interesting, right? So.
Yeah. Other question was, I think you've mentioned this in the past, but do you have staff who are able to assist with language or other, for folks who speak or read other languages besides even just English and Spanish?
Right. We have only sign language has been asked, and so we do hire, and that you know, we hire somebody to help us with this American Sign Language. But that is really the only other besides Spanish and Hmong that we've been asked to, and we have staff that speak both Spanish and or Hmong. So, well, I don't know anybody that speaks both, but I mean, we have staff that does that. So we've been fortunate to be able to have the interpreter as well as somebody who's trained to do this talk with the family members. And we do not like to use children because of the financial aspect of it. So when families offer their minor age children to do the translation, you know, I always use the excuse, well, they're going to talk to them and saying, yeah, they said we can have a dog, right? And you know, and parents are going to say, oh, they said we should have a dog. That's what the swearer is going to pay for, you know, and of course we don't want that. So we want it to be very neutral. So yes, the service, certainly we're not afraid as an agency to hire a service when we need to, and that's what we've been doing.
Thanks.
Sure.
Any other questions for Ms. Shear? All right, thank you, Ms. Shear, again for the update, and we'll see you in December, maybe.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. All right, we'll then jump back to rental inspections update. Linda, you had a question for Mr. Zarate?
Yes, my question is, are there any outstanding complaints that have not been handled by the landlords?
Yes. So that's very typical, though. I mean, some of these cases, you know, most of them probably get completed within, you know, the first 5 to 30 days, probably in the 95% of the cases. But there are those 5% that kind of hang out there, just various reasons. You know, some of them are bigger projects and bigger repairs that maybe need to be done, or there's other problems where the landlords are trying to evict someone, but because of this whole tie-up of you can't evict someone, they go to court. It's just a very lengthy process for them. So I think that's what some of it, but most of anything that's very serious, so smoke detectors, anything that's going to be a major life safety issue, those are corrected right away. Yeah, otherwise we'd be closing the house down. We'd post it unfit if that was the case.
Okay, that was my basic question. If any of the complaints that were outlying, if those were dangerous.
No.
So,
No.
okay, thanks.
Any other housing, or rather inspection questions, discussion?
TJ, have a question, and forgive me in advance for asking what is probably a really simple question, but I'm trying to learn a lot here. What happens when folks report, you know, like my landlord won't replace my fire extinguisher, or we don't have one, or like, you know, emergencies, like you just described? Like, who makes that happen?
So that's our housing inspector, Casey Cable, who has been on these meetings before, but at this time we've just kind of limited staff as to who we have in these meetings. But so he is the one. So we'll get those complaints, and then those are directed to Casey. He contacts the tenant that has the complaint, and we send out a notice to the landlords. In a lot of cases, we have their email now because of that rental registration program, and so we're able to get those things done pretty quickly now when they respond to that email.
Oh, good. So you have like a bank of the emails of most landlords. There was a registration that happened recently.
Right. Yeah. So whenever we started this program, well, it's probably been, I think, 4 years now. Part of that program was actual registration. So if you have rental property in the city, you are supposed to be registered. One of the options that the landlords had was to give their email address. It wasn't required because we couldn't require that. But one of those was to provide the email address so we can get that turned around and we don't have to rely on the postal service for mail because otherwise they were getting the notice and we gave a 5-day notice, but they might not even get their notice until the day before that notice is due. So yeah, we do have a list of hopefully most of the landlords at this point. We feel that there's still some out there, but we hear a lot of things saying that, you know, they've rented it for their son or it's, you know, a cousin or something. They're really not renting it. So we've heard a bunch of different stories, but we do have a lot of the landlords' email addresses in that system.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anything else on inspections? If not, we can move on to item 8 on the agenda, the social media update.
And so for that, I really don't have anything much to add for that. Casey had said he had posted the Rent Smart program that was posted a couple weeks back. Maybe it's even been a month now. So he put that out there. He's posted the agenda. I guess we kind of relying on this group. If there is any articles that you'd maybe want us to try to research for you, or if you have articles that you've seen and you want to have us share on Facebook, because as you know, the new city policy, or the city policy is not new anymore, is that we have to do the posting on Facebook for that rental housing advisory board page.
All right. So yes, if anyone has meaningful information, you can probably send it to Casey directly or to Anna, who can forward it over.
Right.
It's Linda. I looked at our Facebook page yesterday and I noticed that there's some pictures on there, like from Vermont. I mean, if anybody looks at it, you can see that there is some information on there that has nothing to do with our program. So, John, you might want to take a look at that.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be good if there were some pictures on there, like when we were at the farmer's market, not, you know, the last time we were at the farmer's market, which was a couple years ago or whenever. Be nice if there were some pictures on there of us doing that. So maybe they know that we're going to be there in the future at some point. So I think some pictures of that would be good up there. Even I noticed the state or the landlord tenant guide information was on there, but it was like so tiny, and there were like 8 pages out of order. Nobody in there, you know, if they were interested, they would not look at that. To be honest, they would not look at that. So the best thing I can suggest is just putting that first page up there, where it says landlord rental guide program, and then saying you can download this at such and such a website or whatever, but to have all pages out of order. I think there's 8 pages, all out of order. It's not inviting to look at, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah. Was this in one of the posts, Linda?
Yeah,
Okay. And then the pictures that you said from Vermont, I'm actually on the page right now.
yeah. They're
Where-
below, under, that's what comes next after the landlord tenant guide is posted. Are you looking at it now?
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
How far down are you? Like how far back?
I don't know, it's just what came up on my computer. First, I saw the Rent Smart calendar, and then I saw the landlord tenant guide, and then below that was this information from some other state. That's all I saw when I went to the Facebook page.
I'll have to look. I'm not seeing either of those things. Mine are in order that they're posted. And I mean, I'm seeing one from October 11th, which is the agenda, the Rent Smart one, which was posted October 7th. And then there's the agenda from August. There's COVID tips for Oshkosh tenants that we posted in July. And it just goes back, but I'm not seeing anything from the Vermont, and I'm not seeing the landlord tenant guide.
That's odd. That's what shows up when I went on our Facebook page. Goofy. But so you're not seeing the landlord tenant guide posted?
No, I'm gonna, as you guys are talking, I'll keep scrolling through our site, but no,
I
I
think
mean, in the photos section of the Facebook page, like the landlord tenant guide is there. I think in like reverse order because it was
I see it on June 11th. It's posted.
Yeah.
June 11th. Okay, of course I stopped.
yeah,
reading
but
June.
I don't see anything from Vermont or anything not pertaining to Wisconsin or Oshkosh.
Okay, well, that's what showed up when I went on there. So, but the landlord tenant guide, that's a good thing to be posted, but maybe just the first page. I mean,
Mhm.
as opposed, and then with a link to get the whole thing.
Okay,
Because,
yep, I've got those. I've got those notes. We'll get those. that
yeah,
done.
yeah, that would be good. Other
Okay.
than that, that's all I have about the page.
Okay.
Anything else on the socials?
I guess actually now that I'm just looking through this on the photos, there are some older photos from the farmers market. So I'm not sure when these are taken, but there's a nice one with Tim in his yellow shoes. That was just from 2018. Yeah. So we do have some older photos out there. I don't know when the last time we actually were at the farmers market, but we do have, looks like about 3 photos out there for the farmers market. Okay, I'll let you move on.
Oh,
Linda, you're muted if you were trying to say something.
Oh, okay. So you click on photos to see that, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And the landlord tenant guide, that was under photos?
Yeah, anytime you do a posting, and if you have something attached to it, whether it's a photo or this PDF or whatever this is, it's going to show up under photos. Same
So
way, I
what-
think the agendas are a photo.
Okay, and the Rent Smart calendar, that was under photos too? They're all under
Right.
photos? They're all under
Uh,
photos.
Anytime there's a photo attached to a post, even if it's just like informational, that photo goes into the photos area of the Facebook page. Otherwise, they are just listed chronologically on the posts are listed chronologically on a given page from most recent to oldest.
Okay. All right, thanks.
mhm.
All right, let's move on then to county eviction data update. Lindsay.
Yes, I can share my screen. So hopefully you can see this. So for anyone who hasn't seen this before, TJ, this is data that we collect. I'm a part of the Winnebago County Eviction Prevention Task Force. It's a group of different kind of organizations involved in the housing world that came together to try to figure out how to prevent evictions. So we've been tracking the number of evictions filed within the court system in Winnebago County. And data goes back to 2016. This is all data that we pull from CCAP. So again, these are just evictions that are filed. I'll get to the next tab that shows whether or not the eviction actually occurred. So for the month of September 2021, there were 62 evictions filed in the county. The average pre-COVID was about 53 for that month. So starting to creep up again. Now that the CDC eviction moratorium ended, I believe end of August, we kind of expected to see those tick up again. So for total for 2021 so far, we're at 404 evictions filed. And then moving over to, these are actual eviction judgments. So this is where the court sided with the landlord and the eviction actually occurred. So I've been updating this data. It takes a few months for these to actually get through the system and to be posted on CCAP. So I went back to January. Let's see if I can make this easier to see. And have been updating this data. So it looks like, it's around 35 to 45%, all the way up to, in February, almost 70% of the evictions that were filed actually ended with an eviction with a judgment. So that was one of the higher months that we saw. So I'll continue sharing this if this group thinks that it's helpful to see this data. So it is a little time intensive to pull this from CCAP, but I think it's helpful to see how many evictions are actually occurring. So any questions?
How is like the group, the task force or whatever, like responding to this data?
Yeah, so we've, throughout COVID, have been working on putting out resources. We had a few ads in the Oshkosh Herald about the WIRA program, and some of our partners that are involved are Winnebago County Conflict Resolution Center. They can help do mediation between landlords and tenants so that hopefully it doesn't result in an eviction. They can come to an agreement before that. Also working with Legal Action of Wisconsin to help provide more legal services to tenants. And most recently, we applied, the group applied for funding through the city's ARPA funding that they received to hire a kind of community case manager that would be housed at AdvoCap, who would be able to help tenants throughout Winnebago County provide case management to them who are at risk of eviction or going through the eviction process, to help connect them to those resources that are already available and hopefully prevent that eviction from occurring. So we're still kind of working through that, but that was kind of our end after this last year and a half of coming together, looking at data, realizing that we need to figure out how to better connect all of the different partners, resources that are out there, and get people connected to those. So.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion about the eviction data?
I've got a question. It may or may not be related to what you're talking about, Lindsay, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway. So is there any headway, do you know, of any projects to develop any more low-income housing for people through HUD or something like that? Are you aware of any of that going on in our area?
So we've heard of a few. I think just like last night at the city council meeting, we approved the tax incremental district for the old Smith School redevelopment. So that the proposal there would be to turn those into lower income affordable apartments. I think it's, don't quote me, I think it's 1 to 2 bedrooms for those. So that'll be happening within the next couple of years. But I think that's been the conversation of how do we encourage more of that? How do we make those possible because of, increasing costs for developers to actually, redevelop and create apartment units in general? How do we make it, have more ability to make those lower income and affordable? So, yeah. And I think with the city's housing study coming out, I think there'll be a few strategies in that and how we can encourage more affordable units to be built.
Yeah, that's good. Can we put that on the agenda, that, because I notice it's not on the agenda this time, but for next time, the housing study information, Tim?
Yeah, there is a housing study update on this agenda too,
Oh, there is. Okay, good.
which we can move
It's
to right
it's
now.
next. Okay, then.
Which we can move to right now if no one has, if there's no other questions for Lindsay or anything. All right, item 10, housing study update. Is that Mr. Zarate, or do we need our?
We may
That
have
is
to
not-
postpone it till next time since Kelly had to.
Yeah, that's not me. I think that was Mark Lyons.
Oh, okay. Well, we can postpone that till next time then.
I'm psychic.
Which brings us to item 11, the pandemic eviction expungement and the legaltuneup.org service. So Linda wanted this on the agenda for today. So Linda, please tell us what you have to say. You're muted, Linda.
It's called the LIFT program, LIFT Wisconsin, and it started in Madison, but now it's opened up through all of Wisconsin. And so you just go online to LIFT Wisconsin and you look up legal tune-up. I think it's right on our agenda here, legal tune-up. So there's criteria that you put in certain information, and then you can get your eviction expunged off the CCAP record. But of course, there's criteria that has to be met. So I encourage all our members to look that up, or to look at the webpage and share the information on it. I don't know if the Landlord Association might want that information, or the Apartment Association might want that information, but there's a program out there that's been in Madison for a while, but now it's open through the state. So I don't have information about how many people it's helped or anything like that. But I did see a report on public television. I hope, part of the news program was about it. That's why I knew about it to begin with. And then it has helped a lot of people get housing once that eviction was expunged off their record. So that's all I have to say about it.
I think eviction expungement, particularly for evictions accrued during the pandemic, is an issue this board should pursue as best we can for the city of Oshkosh, because the numbers Lindsay just showed were pretty disturbing in terms of both like the amount of, the increasing amount of filings, as well as like the high level of judgments that seem to be coming out as well. And given that, there was supposed to be a moratorium on evictions during the pandemic, that it would, creates kind of a permanent disadvantage for people looking for housing if they have to deal with those, with that on their record, even if it was done like unfairly during the moratorium. So that's, I guess, my 2 cents on the issue generally. I think having looked at the page a little bit myself, I think that it is probably something we could perhaps share on the social media as a tool for helping in that regard. and maybe a resource we can add to the information campaign. Which I guess if there's no other discussion on eviction expungement, is there any?
I was just going to mention, I think Winnebago Conflict Resolution Center has also some experience with expungement work. So I wonder maybe at the next meeting we could have Michael Rust just, talk through what that looks like or what he's seeing within the courts if people are interested.
I think that'd be very useful, especially if we're trying to plan, if we're trying to advise council on things they can do, knowing what's going on already, and to the extent which that is effective would be important for our mission, I think. So. Anything else on expungement? We'll move on to item 12, the public information campaign. So there's been a few drafts and versions of both a brochure and the poster. So you should have received those in email from Anna. And I'd like to thank Linda for her initial work on it, and then Lindsay and Todd for their feedback during the revisions. Essentially, you can start, well, I'll talk about the program or the idea in general. So the program is called Thrive, which is an acronym. I'm trying to share my screen. Hold on. Bringing up the poster. So this is the poster we designed. Sorry if you can't see it completely in the chat or in the video, but the design layout is obviously very basic. Kind of the colors, the fonts, etc., are up to discussion. I'm not precious about any of that stuff. So we have this poster here, and then the idea is called Thrive. Thrive being an acronym for tenant rights, healthy homes, responsible communication, or to responsibly communicate, to improve housing, to voice issues, and to empower others. These 6 things I think are beneficial for both landlords and tenants, and especially things that tenants I think need to do now in order to not only help themselves but to help each other. So the basic poster would contain that, and then in the bottom third there are links to the city website, as well as potentially QR codes to a web page that would contain various resources or just links to various resources. So that is something that we would need to figure out, is the content of that website and how to build it, as well as translations into from English into Spanish and Hmong, for instance, if we were so inclined. And so link to the city, or the onboarding link, and then our name down at the bottom. So again, this is just a very basic layout. I'm kind of stuck on, or I like the acronym for now, but again, we can change other things about it. My idea for these posters were just to put them in places where the people that need them would be able to access them. So community spaces, particularly for low income or otherwise marginalized people, as well as more sort of social spaces. I mean, this is the kind of thing that could be hanging on the wall of in a bar bathroom, for instance, that someone could see and find interesting. So to get them around the city and visible is the idea there. Also then is the brochure, and I don't know how to make a brochure myself, so I apologize. I know this design is a little pretty rough, but again, it's all up for discussion on the design, and I think there's people on staff that can probably help us with this stuff too. hopefully anyway. So what we're looking at here is basically the first sort of 3 pages of the 6-page brochure. All the way to the left is the front page. So you would we designed a logo that we could put here, and then as we see here, like the acronym, I think that'll be stylized out to be more visually appealing, and then our name. And then we get into the acronym itself. So the first T is tenant rights. We explain where the applicable statutes are found in state law, and then list some of the like important, I think, commonly discussed rights for tenants. Next, the H is habitable dwellings. So here we explain that it is necessary to keep up dwellings in order to have a stable, healthy housing community, and we list services that the city provides, both through inspection services to help enforce that. The R, responsibly communicate, or responsible communication. That's inconsistent from the to responsibly communicate, explaining kind of some strategies for how landlords and tenants can best communicate to each other, as well as some things that tenants can do to protect themselves. Brings us to the I, which is to improve the housing stock. This paragraph deals with planning services and some of the home improvement programs that they offer for home revitalization and things of that nature. So that's to for the landlords who need to make improvements, as well as to renters perhaps trying to own a place, knowing that they can be helped out by the city is important too. Next is voice issues. So this explains ways in which people can express themselves to us, to the city, to the state in instances where rights are being neglected, or if there's other concerns, and then a plug for us. And then to empower others, explaining that tenants need to prop each other up, that there's tenant unions forming nationwide, that because of the instability in housing right now, that tenants should consider organizing themselves, and that is important given that landlord interests are represented completely in the state legislature and not so much tenant interests. So that it's up to tenants to help themselves out. And then a little bit of info on fair housing. The back page then would be a list of resources. It would be similar to what a few years ago we developed this pink brochure, a guide for landlords and renting in the city of Oshkosh. And that included a list of resources. Linda's showing it. So that included a list of resources that I figure we just repeat here. But then we can also include other more timely information, such as WIRA. We can talk about, we can plug the apartment association. I think maybe that legal tune-up would be a good resource here, as well as then as information for how to contact inspection services, more RHAB contact information, ADVOCAP, legal action, etc. These then can be printed up and distributed at public events like the farmers market if we do more of that, but then also just brought to, again, places where they would be needed. So community spaces where low income or marginalized people in vulnerable housing situations can go. These can be probably brought to the campus to be distributed to students and things like that. So I guess, what are your all's thoughts at this point?
I just quickly want to say, on the first page, by working together, renters in Oshkosh can. Well, my primary idea with working together, and which I would like to see in a logo, is some sort of circle where you have the landlord, tenant, and city, that there's three components to working together so that tenants understand that, yeah, they've got a landlord, but they also have the city, like whether it's the place to make complaints, or the board we have here, that tenants know that there's that this is three-prong. It's not just a tenant and landlord, it's the city. The city sort of got their back in this if they're having problems. So anyway, that was the crux of the idea behind working together, and I'd like to see a logo that included those three entities. So that's just my input here.
That makes sense to me. Again, I'm not much of a graphic designer, so I don't know how much we like have to do of this or like ourselves necessarily in order to get it rolling. But what I wanted to do at the very least is just kind of set out a framework for what the campaign would be about and kind of what the mission is and how we would pursue it. Any other thoughts or comments, questions?
Couple, yeah. TJ speaking. So I love the layout that you presented. I think it's got all the information that we need. And in my experience, working with graphic designers, that would be a perfect packet of information for you to just like plop on their desk and say, please make this pretty, and they will do that. I don't know if we have, I know like city council, I was in, just one of those meetings, and I want to go to more, but I learned there, there's ways to apply for funding for projects that are specific. And this, I think, might be one. It shouldn't cost a ton, but I think it's worth, like, I think we organized it, and whoever, if that was you, Tim, or whoever it was, you did a great job of getting it organized. And then the next step is just plopping it on the desk of somebody who specializes in graphic design and web development, and just paying them whatever it is for their service and just getting it done. I think it's worth it. I think I can't see it costing more than like $500. And if we think of what that's going to do for future eyeballs looking at it and how effective it's going to be, trustworthy or branding is what makes a business or a company or any organization trustworthy automatically. And I just have that vibe to it, and I think it's worth just investing a little bit into it. I don't expect any of us to pay for that. I know none of us are getting paid being here, but I do think it's appropriate to ask for just a little bit of funding for that, just to get it done too, because it doesn't seem like we have a designer in the room with the skills, the time, or the talent. So I don't know if we don't do that, how it's ever going to get done.
Yeah, that's a good call. I think that would probably be the next step, is trying to figure out how to get it actually made and then published and printed once we, what I would like to do, I guess, here is try and finalize finalize as much of it as we can so we can, get moving and get it into people's hands sooner rather than later. So yeah, any other thoughts, comments?
I think the R, where you have responsibly communicate, I think responsible communication sounds better, like you have it on the brochure. To put responsible communication, I mean, I don't know, I just think that sounds a little better.
Yeah, I think as maybe just the way the phrase sounds, but when Lindsay provided me feedback saying that verbs, like action words, were probably more, actionable. So
That's on me. It doesn't, I couldn't think of a better way to like say that with more of a verb or action, but yeah, whatever you all think sounds good.
I would just I'd like to keep it consistent. So if we're like using verbs, let's use verbs.
Yeah, then in the brochure, so that they're the same.
Yeah, so I'm not a good editor either. So good looking out, everybody.
Yeah, like this was designed by someone at the city. I think we want, this poster to be a little bit more fancy. The brochure doesn't have to be all that much more fancy than this one, but I think the poster needs to be, you know, eye-catching.
bad.
If anything, I like the yellow. I like the color yellow. I think that's eye-catching.
I think this is John from the city. I think that we could definitely help with that brochure. Like you said, you had that one previous, and I know when Kathy was with us, she was, you know, pretty good at doing that publisher thing. There's probably someone else in the city that possibly we could get to help work on that. And I think as far as funding that, if we don't have that, possibly this is something that we could pull out of our budget that we have for this program. The city has allocated some money in our budget for this program, and maybe we could use that money for that.
Yeah, those are great ideas. I mean, if you can figure out who the contact would be in the city for that, I'm happy to, you know, have a meeting with them and kind of run through our wishes.
Yep, I'll put those in my notes and get back to you on that, Tim.
Cool. So, I guess the is there any other discussion about the content or the general sort of framing of it all? So like we do need to develop a logo. I like Linda's ideas of, you know, like 3 parts kind of interacting to represent that the unity or whatever. I think we, you know, obviously we'll keep the acronym. And then it's just coming up with the specific services we're going to list on the brochure, and I guess a layout for the websites. But if we hire someone for that, maybe that's something they do. But I mean, websites I've seen that are they're really just like a list of resources, like a list of links and contact information. So the website that the poster scans to will not be like doesn't need to be super elaborate. It just needs to be easy to read and easy to follow the different, you know, get to the different resources. So I don't know if we need to take action on this or if there's any, if we're good with the content as is, we can, I guess, assume we'll move forward and contact a graphic designer or someone who can help us in that regard and get going in that way.
Well, John, can the city get this into a graphic format for us and distribute it, you know, within the next month or something prior to our next meeting, so we can take a look at it?
Yeah, I think we could. I mean, definitely, especially with that publisher program. And I know over in the planning division, they've got a lot of different brochures and they've got a lot younger people on staff over there that have that knowledge. And I think that they've done some really good brochures with some of the neighborhood programs. And so I think maybe we'll reach out to them and ask for some of their assistance if they could assist us with that.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Would,
And go ahead, Todd. Sorry.
well, I was just going to say that would be great if we could get something, you know, in 2 weeks. I don't know if that's too quickly, but and then we can just have Anna distribute it out again. Everybody can get their comments in based on that. But I think we've got a good start for something here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm happy, like I said, to meet with graphics people or whatever and talk about the vision and then get together like a proper like prototype, not just my half-ass doodlings and stuff. So I think that's what we need to, if you know, as TJ said, like branding is important here. So we really want to make sure it's like crisp and nice and looks good, and all the other stuff I don't really understand how to do. So
you did a good job. You did a good job, Tim. You know, you took it on and you got it to this point, and we're moving things along. So I really appreciate you and Linda and everybody else that contributed to get it to this point. But I know you and Linda were the driving force to get this going. So you did a good job. So thank you very much.
thank you, Todd. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. The only other thing that, and I did mention this, you know, separately in emails when we were corresponding, my only other 2 comments, and, you know, obviously this is a committee thing, so you can take it or leave it, but I've mentioned a couple of times that I think that this should be landlord and tenant rights, you know, and working together, landlord and renters, or however it's worded there, versus just focusing on renters. That's one comment. And then the second comment would be the link was taking us to the onboard website, and I found that website very confusing. So I think the idea of having a more simplified page, and maybe it's still a page within the city somewhere, but has all those links that you talked about, Tim. I think that taking us to that link would be a better solution. And that's also obviously something that the city is going to have to, you know, I'm sure they have a webmaster of some that works on the web page. So they will have to add that page and add all those links for us. But I think that having that link off of the brochure and the poster makes more sense than the other onboard website. And those are my own comments.
Yep. I will go through and try to add landlord to a few more spots, you know, tenant and landlord in the brochure. I think that's a really good call with the website. So we'll have to figure out who to talk to get a website made so we can put that link in the brochure before we publish it. Mr. Zarate, do you know who that would be? Who does web stuff?
So I'm gonna check because I think that might be someone in our media services, and I'll check with them as well.
Great. So I guess let me try and summarize the plan here. I will, excuse me, make some additional edits to the brochure. I will send out an updated version then to Anna to have distributed to us. But that is what I intend to bring to then like the graphics people as the model for what we want to do moving forward. So I will, excuse me, I will try and get a new draft out by the end of the week or early next week then. And then we'll go from there. So if you could, Mr. Zarate, keep me in the loop with whoever you're talking to with graphics people and stuff. And I will, like I said, I'm happy to meet with them and stuff too. Any other discussion on the public information campaign? I thought maybe bus ads could be effective too, but I don't really know how to make or pay for those. But in doing my research of other like similar, of other public information campaigns of this type, public transit presence in public transit was like a big part of it.
Could maybe chat at the next meeting or about some options. I think like we've found ads in the Oshkosh Herald to be helpful too, or we can come up with a few ideas. So
okay. So why don't we add that to the next agenda then, like having a discussion about additional outlets for the information campaign. Is there then, moving on to item 13 on the agenda, is there any other business we can pick up today? Did anyone attend the housing fair at the university today? I saw it was like advertised by Rent College Pads, but I didn't have time to check it out myself. But I understand there was, I guess, landlords there representing themselves. Events like that are things we should keep an eye out for in the future too, because those seem like good opportunities to get literature in people's hands. Any other business for today, though?
Real quick, again, probably a simple question, but do we have a history of rental caps in Oshkosh? Like, we're not going to let you charge over X for a 1-bedroom.
There aren't any now, and as far as I know, there haven't been any in Oshkosh.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so with that in mind, if there's no other discussion for the next agenda, we'll additional outlets for the information campaign. We'll get a proper housing study update. What else did we want to talk about? We'll have Lou Shear back.
Expungement.
Right, expungement. We can have it. We'll have a discussion about expungement, and again, I don't remember anything else. We did we list anything else that we wanted to make sure to include? Seeing none, I would entertain then a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Lindsay.
Do I have a second? Go
I
ahead,
second
TJ.
this, Linda.
All right. So Linda seconds.
And Anna's not here, so I'll do roll.
Oh, okay.
Erickson,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
was Alec Gulan on?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm here.
Gulan,
Hi.
Hobbs,
Aye.
Hutchinson,
Aye.
Javeltis.
Aye.
All right.
That's everybody.
Carried.
All right. Thank you very much. Good work today, everybody. We'll see you in December. Stay safe. Happy Halloween. Peace.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Yeah.